show, women and ladies. It is a great day to be alive, and we thank the Lord for his mercies, for they are never ending. Today we speak and talk about and analyze beyond the numbers as we journey on the leadership role of women as they take up the mantle to challenge the status quo. For long, the role of women in leadership had been a silent one, but we have seen women come to the forefront of being great leaders of this country. To take you back, the women's fight led to the formation of the Ministry of Gender and the Equal Opportunities Commission. Today, with the ladies, we sit and ask ourselves, our mothers fought a battle and they have evidence of their work. As women, as young women, what do we need to do to be able to have evidence of our work? Look at affirmative action and what it has done for the women. But then beyond these numbers, are we seeing transformative change in the lives of young women and teenage girls? And today joined with me are the beautiful ladies, Hope.
Thank you for hosting me. It's a privilege.
Thank you, Hope. Hope, where do you are from? Who are you?
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen watching the show. My name is Hope Katushabe, and I work with YALI, Uganda.
Yes.
And I am the chairperson, participant engagement. Yep.
Good to have you at the show, Hope.
Thank
Charity?
Thank you so much. My name is Lenia Charity Kevin. I'm the 25th Vice Guild President of Macquarie University Business School, and equally stood as a guild candidate for guild presidency. I guess I'll share my story. And then right now I'm the Executive Director of Upright Inspired Youth Foundation.
Good to have you, Charity.
Thank you so much.
Omega.
It's very difficult to come after such phenomenal women. My name is Aloyo Omega. I work as a lawyer at FIDA Uganda, but I also work in the communications and advocacy department. FIDA Uganda is an organization that uses the law as a tool for social justice. So to all the ladies out there, if you have any issues with cases concerning maintenance, domestic abuse, anything that perturbs your rights as a woman, feel free to come to us. All our services are free. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Omega. And my question will go straight to you, Omega. Beyond the numbers, we have the numbers. We have seen women fight for us to have the numbers on the decision-making table. But have they resulted into impact?
The numbers resulting into impact. First of all, you have to look at where the numbers coming from.
Yeah.
Because clearly the women's rights movement had its ups and downs. Historically, women were not even allowed to eat chicken to start with. We can start from there. So you have to trail, where did these numbers come from?
Yeah.
Because now you have a surge of them. You have, I think, so many hundreds of seats just being kept for women, MPs.
Yeah.
So you have to trail and see where did the numbers come from, and they came from affirmative action, which some people like to call positive discrimination.
Okay.
Yeah, positive discrimination. It's not discrimination that is rooted in any form of hatred or to try and insubordinate anyone, but it is discrimination, positive discrimination, that looks to see which people were left behind because of cultural factors, because of social factors, which people have been disadvantaged by history, by society, by culture, and all those things. So affirmative action, I think it is Article 32 of the Constitution. So it provides for affirmative action for women, persons that are marginalized, and people that are even marginalized by history, by the way. So that is where the numbers are coming from. So you see the Constitution providing for affirmative action, and you see the numbers coming in form of women MP seats, and so the numbers are here. Thank you to affirmative action. But now, are those numbers having impact? I would like to say yes, because when you have women in positions of leadership, those women are extremely sensitive to women's issues because themselves are women. I like to give the example of Honorable Rebecca Kadaga. While she was in office as a Speaker of Parliament, she tasked all government ministries, departments, and agencies before your budget could be approved, you had to prove like that 50% gender equity, budgetary, like it was literally, it was literally a condition. So, but where did that come from? It came from a woman leader, recognizing the need for gender responsive budgeting. So there is impact, but of course there are always things to be done better. I would like to say that there is impact because representation matters. If you passed women, if you placed a person with disabilities as the Prime Minister of Uganda, at the back of their head, because of those personal lived realities and experiences, they would front that agenda. If you place the youth into power, they would front the youth agenda. So impact is there. Impact is there. You see, right now, currently in Uganda, you have Honorable Robin Anabanja. You see the Vice President. Are you seeing position?
The Speaker herself.
The Speaker herself. Alupo, Madam Alupo, our Vice President. So you see that women are there in positions of leadership, and not every battle is public. Not every achievement is high sounding. They are doing things behind the scenes. For example, if you ask how many Ugandans know about that quota, that Rebecca Kadaga placed, that 50% requirement, not many people know it, but it affects them. But this is because one woman understood the concept, placed it into power. It is not a concept that is to be shouted off the rooftops, but it is a concept that will affect you. Because if a ministry decided to pass budget without any regard for gender, you see the problems you would have as a person. It trickles down to you. So the impact is there. The numbers have brought impact. I think later on in the show, you surely plan for what can be done better. But for now, I really want to emphasize the need that the numbers have impact and that representation matters.
Yeah, and I think when we look at the EOC, the Equal Opportunities Commission, we look at the marketplaces having centers for women and their children. When we look at the Ministry of Gender, I think people there don't know that the Ministry of Gender is because women fought
for it.
Yeah, we fought for it. Inclusive. But that being said, I want to come to Charity as a person that has been in elections. What are those challenges that are specific to young women that you face while standing for positions of leadership?
Mine, I would say it has been a roller coaster journey. I would literally explain the whole thing to people, and everybody's like, oh my goodness, you really must be a strong woman. But I want to bring this up. It's very normal. You know, when they say, Charity came in second place in the guild elections. She was the only girl running among 4 boys, and she came in second place. And everybody's like, oh, she tried. We are not surprised. She did well. That is a very wrong answer. She tried. She did well. So you didn't expect me to be in first position. You get it? So that is how it is. So that means we can celebrate the progress. I usually tell people, whenever people come up and say, we are so fed up of women empowerment. Women empowerment is all over the place. I hope you guys have had that statement. You know, people keep complaining. But I tell them, you know what? However much we are celebrating the progress, because we need to celebrate the progress. I mean, why are we celebrating the progress? We have very many women leaders doing so many things out there, and they are inspiring us. Right now, we have a place. Women have a voice, even in leadership. So that is what I can say. We can celebrate the progress. However much, there is still literally a lot that needs to be done. We are not yet there. Because if I can experience the fact that I lost an election and people tell you, you know what, you did so well. You did so well. I mean, nobody is there saying, I wish you had, you had won. Yeah, I wish you had won. People are not surprised. Everybody's like, you know what, you did so well. And yet I was in a society, ever since 2011, MOOBS as an institution has only had 1 female guild president. Wow. That was in 2013. Up until now, they've all been male. That means we still live in a society where people don't believe in female leadership. So I faced a lot. I remember during my election, the mere fact that I was vice president, everybody already, that is enough for her. That is where women have to stop. we don't know why she's going in for guild, and yet she has already been vice. I mean, that is your position. You know, your position is vice president, and that is where you're supposed. And I was like, no.
I've heard women say, "Oh, Becky, you're too ambitious. How can you be too ambitious?"
Thank you. You're too
and
ambitious.
I'm like, why are you too comfortable?
Why are you too comfortable? Because I mean, when you're out there, you and other much they told me, they're like, you know what, Charity, MOBS is not ruled by a woman. And you can't become guild president because we've not had a woman ruler. So how dare you? And I was like, watch me go.
Watch
that
me
is
rise.
Exactly, watch me go. And there was a difference of just 300 votes that has never happened before. 1,500 students voted for me in that institution. And 1,750 students voted for my opponent. That means the 1,500 believed in me as a leader. And that was perfect, right?
Yeah.
That was perfect. There was a small difference. So that means the next lady who wants to come up for guild president can actually win the election. But the mere fact that there's too much negativity in the space, you don't have to go. You're not going to go through, my dear. You are a lady with women.
Women pulling you down.
Thank you. And one thing I faced was majority of the people, for the very first time, people were actually surprised that we had ladies on our rally. Women were very many. I can tell you that we need to celebrate the fact that ladies are now ready to support one another, even in the smallest aspect. Majority of them must have pulled us down, criticized us, but I can tell you that even the many were like, we are for charity, and they were women. We are shouting for charity, we are rallying behind charity, and I appreciated that a lot. I can say that we, the ladies here, we are inspiring many out there to support one another because it's happening.
Thank you so much, Charity. You bring out the aspect of comfortability within women. And she knows that we sit in many spaces together. And I keep telling people, but why are you comfortable? What makes you think you should be comfortable as a woman?
Definitely.
We are having high rates of teenage pregnancies, so you don't know if it will be your daughter that gets pregnant or that. And I'll bounce the ball to you, Hope, and say and ask you, how do we ensure that women, when they get into these spaces, and you know, she's comfortable. I have a problem of women that are still seated on that affirmative action seat for a very long time. It shows comfortability.
It does.
Yeah. How do we make sure that women are not comfortable and say, okay, this is like a space for me, this is where I'm supposed to stop, and see their potential to grow beyond that little office space they've given them?
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll take back this to the nurturing of how we are being nurtured as women. We all accept that when we are being brought up, we're told that women, the smaller space is what belongs to us.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're taking up a fight with a boy, they'll pull you down. Why are you doing this? You were a woman. So that has raised us to be comfortable with the little we get. When we get the little, we become so comfortable. Like we fear to take up challenges because that is how we are nurtured. You've seen that people who have raised in a space that tell them that you're equal, we're all equal. What a man can do, you can do. What a man can chase, you can also chase. We've seen them run and chase things. So me, the comfortability of women, I bring it back to how we are raised. And I bring it back to the parent out there. If you're raising a woman, if you're raising your daughter, kindly raise them knowing that this world is an equal space where you have to step the foot like a fellow man, like a man doing it, like a woman doing it, but not raising them knowing that there is a certain space for men, there is also a certain space for women. For you, when you get a chance and you step into the space of men, kindly don't cause havoc because that is not your space. So it has really created the comfortability. And I believe that all of us here have faced challenges where you enter into a space to discuss and they say, hey, why are you discussing like men? Someone asked me, you're supposed to be a woman. Why are you hustling like a man? Sit down, they take care of you. And that state, I felt like I am insulted. How do you tell me that I sit down and they take care of me because I am a woman? So I feel like as we are raised to be comfortable. with the little that we have. We fear taking up challenges. I remember when I was going to run, I've grown up in the space of leadership. I started way back in primary 3 when I stood for the debate prefect in a school of over 1,000 people. And everyone looked at me as this tiny short girl. Imagine if I am like this, how I looked before. And someone's like, you're just in P3. You were a girl. What are you going to tell us? This school is dominated by boys. I was like, wait, watch and see. I was a debate prefect from P3. I carried the mantle up to P5. And I made sure that all girls in school were the ones to sit on the debating panel. Wow. Because I knew that I am not going to accept the challenge of saying that I am a girl, I have to be very comfortable. And when I was running for the vice college president at Makerere University, the College of Education and External Studies, they told me, hey, Hope, you better focus on your studies. Politics is a dirty game and it's a game for men. Not for you. Who is going to listen to you? You even hear how you speak. Will you even address the Larry when you're looking for the votes? They are going to intimidate you because you're a woman, you're beautiful. Men are going to come chasing you. You're going to lose focus as a woman. I said, hey, I know why I'm here. I know what I want to do. You do not have any right to talk about the position I want to take. The same goes back to YALI when I was running for the YALI participant engagement. At first, I was the only lady on the position. So a lot came up from the alumni saying, no, we cannot have a position run by only women, because the chairperson was, we had a woman running, Faith, Myra, we had the communication chair, they were all women, we had the resource mobilizer, they were all women. So they rallied up saying that, no, we need men into this. It brought me back to asking, what is wrong with women leading only? Because the leadership composes of 5 positions and we have only 1 gentleman, we won the race. And I asked myself, I always ask them, what is wrong with having the entire leadership run by women? Why do you feel like women are less of servants than men? And they told me that it came way back from our forefathers. It is us men to lead. You get? So if we are raising our children, we should raise them in a way that, hey, look, step out there, knowing that the space you're on, it is the same space. It is a level ground. But not having this for this gender, this for this gender. It all goes back to our nurturing. I know there are some things you do and they wonder, they're like, why? Why would you behave like boys? So I always ask, how do boys behave and how do girls behave? So let's look into how we are nurturing if we want to really have the comfortability zones broke.
Thank you so much, Charity. You talk about the issue of changing mindset and ensuring that when we are nurturing right and by right by the children. And I'll come back to you, Omega, and ask, how do we therefore deal with women? You know, for me personally, there's a time I took on somebody because I was standing up for myself, and women were saying, how dare you stand up for yourself? How do we tell women that a woman standing up for herself means I'm standing up for you too as women? A woman speaking up, it means that you two women can speak up for yourselves. How do we sit with our brothers, our sisters, and tell them to not pull down women, their fellow women, when they are accessing justice and fighting for themselves? We've seen the kind of women leaders. That's why I was saying beyond the numbers, the women leaders who when a woman is going to say, they've beaten me, or I'm going to access justice for my land, property rights and all that, they're the first to put, your home is going to break. How do we change the mindsets of such women leaders that we have beyond the numbers?
As my fellow panelists were talking, I was just thinking in my head, wow, because even to beat those odds those seem like very small spaces. It's not the government of Uganda, and it's not the Mandela Washington Fellowship, you see.
Yeah.
But you see, even in that space, you face the opposition. So how much more fire
is out there,
is up
at
there.
the national
You can only imagine, like, if you continue, and we are all destined for greatness.
Yes.
I usually like to joke and I say, in about 10, 15 years old, we will laugh and say, we used to be on Civic space, chattering away, you see.
Yes.
Now look at her, she's there, you see.
Yeah.
But how much more fire in the future if we don't address these gender constructions and all this? It is just a heap of jumbled up. Someone can't go through it if you're a woman. But how do you make sure that women know that when you're fighting when you actually contest for position, you're fighting for others? I think it goes back to the question of being comfortable.
Yeah.
It goes back to that. I can give you an example. I had the chance of reading Forward's, it's a report, it's a research, but it's something that I read on Shattering the Glass Ceiling. That's its title.
Yeah.
How women participated in the election, and they made reference to Honorable Achiro Lucy.
Yes.
She stood, and then they told her, she stood for an open seat, and they told her, why are you going to the men's toilet? You see, why are you going to the men's toilet?
Yes.
An open seat is provided both by the Constitution under Article 78. Anyone can stand on it. You can stand and get into Parliament on an open seat.
Yeah.
But even in spaces of leadership, society has found a way to cluster women,
yes.
you see.
Yes.
Because now you have the chance to be a leader, but they're telling you can only be a woman MP. Leave this one for us. No. So they're telling her, why are you going to the men's toilet? And my favorite thing about her response is that she used culture to also rebut back. So she's Luo, and she said that if I'm going to the men's toilet, why are you knocking? We need to see your naked what? Mother. But she had understood that if she had come out outrightly and said, I have a right to be here, she may not have been understood by the society. So she used culture and that allusion to a naked mother to come off people. But when I read that, all I could think was, this woman didn't even have to go that far. Yeah. She just had to say, I have permission under Article 78.
Yeah.
That is all. But when you're boxed into having to explain yourself for each and everything that you do, you have to explain yourself that I'm going to be the moobs, this and this and this, please vote for me. You qualify by every paper that makes the qualifications, you qualify. But the fact that people are in that position means that there has to be a lot of mindset change. There has to be a lot of advocacy, even among women themselves.
Yes.
And women, I don't believe that women do it consciously. It could be subconscious. Because you have been trained as young girls to vie for men's attention. You've been trained as young girls that you belong in the kitchen. The training itself, your mind is already in a tangle of so much. You can't liberate yourself. Yeah. So when you see a woman stepping outside the odds, unless you've been exposed, you feel like she's doing the wrong thing. So there has to be a lot of advocacy around women participating themselves. Still, again, think about it when we talk about the open seats and the women's seats. So you have the women's seat, which is affirmative action. The women's seat, you get on it and you get exposure. As an MP, it is created for you because the Constitution recognizes that you've been left out of the conversation because leadership was predominantly by what?
By men.
By men. So you have that, but you have to go even past that women's seat and start thinking big. Yeah. Okay, I have to go on an open seat. And that's, for me, when we said we would discuss women in democracy, I felt that is something that had to come out. It is not enough to say we have affirmative action. Yeah. Have you empowered these women to the point that they now view themselves as deserving of equal opportunity as their male counterparts? Past that, so if you're examining Parliament's records and say, oh, we have this and this amount of women in spaces of leadership, right? So how many women are in Parliament on an open what? Seat. That is a whole other question
and discussion.
And how many people have been bullied as they tried to go for that seat? The Equal Opportunities Commission was saying that about 0.01 women in positions of mayor. And what was it?
We even have female mayors.
Yes,
Think about it. It is Lord Mayor. You see, it is
for
the position
we have more
itself.
cities now.
The position itself. When you hear the term Lord Mayor, you just think
it's a man.
The picture that comes to your head, it is either Elias Lukwago or someone else.
Oh, yes.
I remember when Honorable Nabira was contesting for that. Some people said that Nabira, you're a woman, you cannot afford the Bayai of Kampala. You know, so
those types of statements, and that is the society that you're living in. That is the society that you want to change. But still, it is not enough to say that these are the things that people are saying.
Oh,
you have to find out, why are they saying those things?
Where are they coming from?
Are they historical? Are they cultural? Are they? I gave you the example of Honorable Lucy.
Yes.
To understand, because that just shows that a person understood that you're saying this from a cultural mindset. The only way I can beat you is to make the cultural illusion and place you, because actually is a very cultural people. So they must have said, oh, our naked mother, and they left the conversation. But the biggest takeaway from that conversation is her only defense was the law.
Yeah.
She was qualified. So how does a woman?
But sometimes you find that the law is contradiction with culture. That yes, the law is there, but then for me, where I come from, what are the laws of my culture where I come from? And so how are we going to integrate? Reconcile the two, the national law and the cultural laws.
But the national law is the supreme law.
Yes, I know it is the supreme law.
When you get to court, my friend, and you've been doing those things, and they put you won't come and say, you know, in my culture.
And that is what people have failed to truly understand, that the national law is the supreme law. Yeah. That if I am maybe defied from the culture law, I have another arm where to run to. We are caged into the thinking that our cultures, what they have said, that is the supreme. Because that's where we run to.
I would like to say that the constitution is the supreme law of the land. And you know, the constitution says that Uganda is a secular country. So there is no culture, there is no religion, but at the same time, you have to be extremely cognizant of the fact that we are cultured people. And naturally, you are from the West, you see. So people belong in these clusters. So how do you reconcile those two things? Yeah. You first of all have to know that culture is evolving. It is not static. Culture is never in one place.
Oh, yes.
It is, because culture is people. It is their history. It is the things that they love about their backgrounds, their kings, their mannerisms. If culture was static, we would not know how chicken tastes.
Yeah.
I like that.
Not be even Christian.
And that joke is so funny to me, because the person that usually makes it to me says that, which man tasted chicken and said, this thing is so nice. We have to exclude these people from it.
We have to exclude the women.
We have to, if it is going to be enough for us.
We have to eat alone.
But it is an example that culture evolves. And because culture is such a stronghold on people's minds, the only way that you can get them out of those negative culture stereotypes is through telling them the positives. For instance, you cannot win a battle against a Muganda by speaking about their culture in a very derogatory manner.
Yes.
You can only sit down with them and tell them, don't you think this cultural norm is doing this bad thing? And I feel with westernization, that's the problem with westernization. It has brought us into this space of a European mindset.
Oh, yes.
This is what you have to be cognizant of, the fact that these are African people. How do we meet halfway? Because even them, in embracing their culture, there are beautiful things about their culture. Their culture is their identity. So how do we develop our own African type of... You have to teach people. I keep emphasizing it a lot because I've seen the power of advocacy. Sitting down with someone and saying, you know what, I think here needs to change.
Yeah.
Female genital mutilation. You see, things like that. Would you think that they would even be stopped? Forced marriages. It is sitting down with a mother and saying, if this girl doesn't go to school, these and these are the likely what? Outcomes.
Yes.
If this, so it is sort of round table discussions, not just to have the battle between the constitution and culture. There used to be a witchcraft act. There used to be an Enguli act. So all these things. But it goes to show you that at the same time that culture is ever evolving, even the law itself is ever evolving.
Oh, yes.
So the only way that these two can meet is on a round table. And when they meet, they have to be educating each other.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Omega. I will throw the ball to you, Charity. And because you've been in positions of leadership, and ask you, how are women being used and exploited as they are on these tables of leadership? You find that we saw that video where the chick was massaging the guy's head in parliament.
Yeah.
And most of the times women think, oh, we are in love, but you're being used.
Exactly.
And as a person that has been in leadership, you need to give us cases how women should identify that, okay, I'm going off track my leadership journey. I'm being used, and later I will be excluded.
Exactly.
Yes.
And for women politicians, that is usually the best way to get them off track. That's you. So for us, they usually advise us, women politicians, if you're into politics, make sure you're very careful with your love life. You either don't fall in love, or just make sure we don't get to know about whoever it is you're messing around with, right? And most of the times, I remember one time I was having a conversation with one of the lecturers, and she said, you know, women are trying to show power, and women are trying to come up and try to grow thick skin, and they're trying to elbow themselves out of these spaces. But however much they try, they are still being used by men indirectly. So when she mentioned to me that statement, you've actually reminded me, because you find that women are emotionally triggered, and you know that is what everybody considers a weakness to ladies. If you may agree with me, especially in the political spaces, that is what they believe and say, that women are emotionally triggered. And that is true. Most people believe that women are emotionally triggered, and that is how they are going to use women's emotions to distract them and to turn them over. So I would say that most of the times you will find that even when she's in politics, very many women have given up their dreams because of certain things, because of these things of being used. I can give maybe a simple example. If I was a lady and I was standing in for a position, and this very same guy wants to come in for the same position, are you aware that with politicians even begin planning 5 years? If an election is 2026, from 2022, this guy has already started what? And that is how politics is. So if I knew this lady Charity is coming up, and she wants to equally be maybe she wants to stand in for this position, or youth MP, what? This guy will come in and throw his utterances at you. He will come in and intentionally show you, throw out love utterances at you, and you'll find that this lady is falling for it. We've had incidences like that.
When the person is pretending.
And guess what? Later on, you're going to get to realize it later. The guy, I'm standing for MP. I lost a dream. You get? And it has happened because we've sat with ladies and they tell us some of this.
They even use your networks.
Thank you.
They use your networks.
Get her.
Let's get their networks for political economy and political capital.
Exactly.
But that, I feel like that just portrays, it sort of portrays women as the weaker. It is when you say it like
most
that.
Most times women don't see it coming.
They don't see it as
coming,
affection,
but it is not, when you phrase the conversation like that, it sort of puts, there is that thing called blaming. It sort of puts it tilts the power and says that, oh, you accepted to be manipulated, as opposed to recognizing that there was a manipulator.
Now, the reason why
we are giving out that information so that girls there know how these men use.
Because it happens.
Let me tell you,
the conversation then should be on something that says manipulation, how to avoid manipulation. Not to say that someone's personal life, because that is a personal...
Do you know that they can use your personal life to be manipulated?
They can, and that is why they say politics is a dirty game.
That is what happens in the political society.
That is what happens in the political society. But the woman, ultimately, at the end of the day, should not bear the cross for falling, or not for falling, for engaging in a personal relationship, we should be able to look out and say that there was a person that was manipulative. No, and that is the same, maybe just to bring you back, we done some work on sexual violence. And even in sexual violence, you'll find that someone is raped and people ask the obvious questions. What was she wearing?
What was she wearing? Why? Oh, yes.
And they say them in hushed tones. But for me, I agree with this conversation.
From a very good point.
Yes,
but we also need to inform the viewer out there that, okay, listen, this is where you're going to start from. This is before you.
And I agree. I am not disagreeing with this conversation. What I am saying is, you should know that there is a manipulator, because that is how we should move as society.
Yes.
If you say that, oh, you were tricked, you make the person feel guilty for engaging in a personal relationship, which is not a problem.
But here is the fact, Omega, that we need to tell the viewers. That despite us knowing, between you and I, we know that that is what we need to say to out there on paper. Exactly. But realistically, for a local woman that is watching, or a girl at university,
the manipulation
is okay. Look here, they are going to come. They're going to even to go to your family.
And it's actually the same as manipulation, but she doesn't know it.
And yeah, she might not know it's manipulation. They're going to go to your family. They're going to go to your networks. They're going to go for your body and politics.
And there was
and this is what they're going to. They're going to use you, and all that you have
is gone.
Is gone. So how do you sit with yourself as Omega and see them coming? You're like,
you're careful. You know, you have a shield.
And I agree. I think you think, but I do not agree. My issue is on languaging, the way that we language things.
Or maybe the way we bring it out.
The way you bring it out. If we had, I can use the common example I use a lot, to lose your virginity. When you say you lose your virginity, you make it seem like your virginity was yours for the taking. It was not a part of you. It was for someone to come and conquer. Then if you say, oh, she fell prey to, you make the woman look like some weak, you see.
But there are those that are naive.
No. There are those that are naive, yes, but I would like us to come
out like the one that was
and say that there is a manipulator, you see.
Okay,
shift the blame to whom it belongs to.
Would you really tell the lady that was in parliament massaging the guy's head that there was a manipulator to that moment?
I don't know, Masha, who was massaging who?
Oh, you didn't see?
You didn't see that
some people were busy massaging themselves. Actually,
she kept it was on.
Actually, not knowing that she's a leader and she's getting embarrassed, and
no, she's gone. She's out.
She's out of the space. Now that comes in with shielding yourself. I mean it. I'll give an example.
And also, how do you bounce back after that?
We had a conversation with our solo liberties.
Right now, I feel like they are not so strong. Yeah. That conversation of parliament is a question of professionalism. You are doing it in the wrong place.
Yes.
Had she been massaging that gentleman's head, that is their business. We have no right to pry into the nature of their relationship. The only situation that maybe was wrong was the place and position, and were they in a plenary session, what was happening. So you look at the circumstances, but when we sexualize women, because the woman is getting the heat, not the owner of the head that was being massaged.
Who was seated like this?
The head is enjoying the massage, but who will get the heat?
And it's the lady getting embarrassed at the end of the day.
By the end of the
day. But women also have the right to be sexual. And I'm not saying that was her.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, usually when society is critiquing romantic relationships or expressions of love, they critique the woman.
Oh, yes.
No one has stood out and said that this man was also an MP. People will say things like, don't you know you're a woman member of parliament? You see,
how dare you placing that on her? They bring out your mother, now your children,
isn't he a father? You know? So that is, and that was when we go back to the expression, the culture discussion, the family discussion, the way we language things. Those small things to say that, oh, and I had an example of such a thing during my high school days. One of my friends, I think, would be wowed so much by men, but it wasn't for anything but by the fact that she was brilliant. But it was for me, what I picked out was there was no weakness on her part.
No.
It was a scheme because someone sees that this person could be a danger to them and their ego and society and all those things. So for me, the conversation right now around that parliament discussion around the whole like being vibed, quote unquote, is how do we language it?
How do we now, therefore, Omega, and from you and from the two of you, give us example of how women in leadership are manipulated and taken advantage of. You said we remove the word taken advantage of, are manipulated and they lose their leadership seats.
The first one is exactly what we have spoken about right now. I don't want to say this, but society, I'll repeat it again, and you guys can agree with me. Society believes that women are emotionally triggered. I'll tell you the truth. Society believes that women are the type of people who easily expose their emotions. That is why anytime they want to put a lady down, they literally attack her using her emotions. And even us in the leadership setting, they usually tell us, you know what, make sure you are very careful about your emotions. I'll give you an example. For the very first time in school, I was outspoken because I saw malice happen, and this time I was like, you know what, I need to speak up. But that time when I spoke up, they termed it as lack of emotional intelligence. And yet for all this time, I've been what? Silent. You get the point? So I said no. I learned to tell people that being assertive, and a woman being assertive and outgoing and speaking up and coming up and saying, you know what, Omega, today this is wrong, it should have been like this, is not lack of emotional intelligence. She's actually being assertive and she's actually speaking out. And I need to tell people that is what they use to put women down. Because they know this is something that you're equally afraid of. You're like, oh my God. In simple language. But today when I come out, today when I speak, lack of emotional intelligence.
I'm walking on eggshells.
Exactly. It's done.
They're doing you, gaslighting you, and they say we are walking on eggshells.
Thank you. Not knowing that you as a lady, they're actually putting you down. They are silencing you indirectly. And they're telling you, you know what? You're not going to speak because this is how we are going to attack you indirectly. But today, I would tell ladies that those are one of the reasons they are put down, even in leadership positions. Those are one of the reasons she's going to be stepped on, because indirectly they have pushed it to her. We've had discussions of ladies, of women in leadership, and they're like, don't give your opinion. We know you're going to give your opinion and you're just going to quarrel about it. That means they're not respecting the sense out of her. They're not they're not respecting the fact that this woman is personality, she's an assertive person. And when she comes out to speak, they're going to use that against her. We've seen this so many times. I do not know whether you've heard of women in leadership positions where they do very amazing work. Even in the corporate society, in businesses, their efforts are taken up by, for example, maybe their bosses.
If they take credit for your work.
They take credit for your work. And that is what women are facing. I'll be honest, even in leadership, I might say today I'm a business leader. Let's say I am the dean of maybe commerce in school. I have done amazing work. I've done very good research. But because your boss is a man, they're not going to believe that you actually did this work by yourself. This is still happening up to now. Oh, the president did it. We don't think the lady did it. You get? So women are still, and at the end of the day, they're going to remain silent. Because they know you're not going to speak up and say, I am the one who did this work. I am the one. So I remember I went through a training session of women in leadership with LEAP Africa in Nigeria. So they said, actually, they trained women. And they're like, if you're going through that, you have to have executive presence. If today your boss or your supervisor took credit of your work, or maybe you've been a good leader, but because somebody on top of you or ahead of you has taken credit of your work, what you have to do is get an opportunity to make sure that your boss tasks you. Or if Omega is maybe my boss, I need to speak to her. Do you have an assignment you can give me as my boss? And make sure that my boss tasks me. Let him give me the duty to do work. And that is how my boss will know that Charity has actually been very brilliant. These are intelligent people who have been in these spaces. He will get to find out that you've actually been doing amazing work because knowledge is similar. he will know the same energy you put in to carry out the other research work is actually similar to the way you presented this one today. And without having conflicts in the workspace and headlocking with anyone, you're going to find out that you've achieved that at the end of the day. But I'll be very honest with you, even likewise in leadership. Have you seen women who at times come out to make noise? And Miriam Matembe was chased from from parliament. She was just from government. But because she was open and outspoken and, this woman must be mad. Everybody's like, this woman must be mad.
Because they know you say things
they're doing and you expose them.
Yeah.
I literally had a conversation with her and she was like, they chased me.
Actually, last time she was saying
I think she literally told that she shared
I wonder,
her story.
people say that, how does Matembe manage you? Like the way you are, how can you
exactly
even?
No.
And then she was like, am I managed? Am I a business? Am I a property? A project
you're going to be managed? See a lady like,
I'm a fellow woman.
You're outstanding, you're outspoken, and everybody's like, you know what? I don't think she's a lawyer, and our perception is lawyers do not get married. Who can manage a lawyer who is
assertive,
who is so assertive, who is so outspoken? If you let me know. So haven't you faced such issues?
And
like you are a lawyer and
bring it back to Omega and say women in leadership. Give us a deeper dive of how women are manipulated, which ends up they end up losing their jobs,
their vision, their dreams.
We talk about emotional yes, those little things in few seconds, and then
few seconds is the worst, but it comes down to sex and gender. So what is sex? What is gender? Sex is how you're born a male or a female. You have no control over that. It's because of those internal androgynous, those things inside us. I don't even know the scientific names for them, but they are systems, bodily systems that influence breasts. So that is sex. But then what is gender? Gender, those norms, those responsibilities that are placed on you because you're a man or a woman.
The social construction.
The social construction. Yes. Yeah, so you have those. You have that a man is the provider of a home. A woman is you're the cook. You're the so if we can even go through this, but I think
yes,
the attributes that are placed upon you because you're a woman. It goes, that discussion does not just stop on sex and gender roles. It carries into leadership. It carries so heavily to even contest for a position. Let me give you an example, to contest for presidency. People will act liberated, but try.
Yeah.
Because aren't you a woman? When they say the question, aren't you a woman? It just goes back to the discussion of your gender roles. Don't you know you're supposed to be his submissive wife? Don't you know you're supposed to be a mother? You understand? But those, when you live life according to these gender roles, you also do a disservice to men. Because when you and that is where the question of mental health of men is coming from. You see so many boys struggling, but it is because they've been told you cannot be weak in any form.
Yeah.
So they can't even seek for help in cases of depression. But away from that, those gender roles carry even into democracy. So the question is not even of manipulation. People are being manipulated by social cultural factors. If they ask you to name the manipulator as to why you cannot stand, you may not be able to.
You may not be able to.
But it is culture, it is social, it is religious even.
Oh yes.
The things that our religion say. So there are so many factors that may not be written down in a book but affect this. But for me, I feel it is those gender roles. We look at women and we have a certain picture of where they should stop and where they should go in, even low.
There is a question on when it comes to gender. I think they threw it to us some time back. That are these gender roles a point, or the difference between the men and women, are they a point of nature or it is a point of nurture?
They are actually a social construct.
Yes,
they are constructed by society.
They are not constructed by society. They are not natural.
And you have to ask yourself who constructs them and whose benefit are they to?
And who is carrying them on?
And who is carrying them? Who is getting the advantage?
Actually, I recently had a conversation with a lady And she told me in her home before she got married to her husband, they had a discussion on gender roles. She said for her it was very important for her husband to know that she doesn't like washing dishes, she doesn't like to do the laundry, because these are things that are just put out there. It is a must for a woman to do this. You're supposed to do this. For her, she would say, these gender roles, a man just has to get out of the bed and a woman lays it. She's like, no, we need to discuss these gender roles. Things I don't like to do, we need to know that things you don't like to do and things I don't like to do, we get someone to do them for us. It's not by nature.
It's not by nature that I'm supposed to wake up in the morning, the man leaves the bed, and then I lay it. When he lays it, I always have a joke that, okay, you wash the dishes, so now you lost your manhood. You have now become...
That is why it is very important.
When you do them, really nothing happens, but they have used these gender roles to really squeeze and manipulate women. And even us women, we have chosen to become comfortable and say, this is, we have accepted, because this is, our mothers used to be like this. Okay, let me be different and see what will happen. Will I cease being a woman? Will I cease giving birth? Because that is my reproductive roles. Actually, it brings us back to the triple roles that women play. Women, they are productive, they are reproductive, and then they are also active citizens. So what happens if I chose to say that, no, I'm not going to succumb to the pressure of the societal roles? How the society constructed hope as a woman does not have a control over me, because it is not the one that is running my life. I run this life independently. I wake up every day. I do these things alone. I program myself. I am going to do this. This is how I want to see myself excel. But
this
again,
is where I want to
this is
go.
where I want to go. This is what I do. My friends normally tell me that, but hey, you hustle like men. I'm like, but
that's the
don't be dependent on something. Tomorrow
how is it? How is it that if I hustle, I have ceased being a woman?
And
when I remove my clothes, do I
a bit there? My question now, to answer your question, when you step out of the gender role, how are you treated? That is exactly the problem.
The problem,
yes.
When a person dares to step out of those gender roles,
definitely,
how you are treated, that is the answer to your question.
You're treated like an angry feminist. You're treated like
when I'm going to work, people make it seem like
to have this conversation with people need to understand.
You get
it's even we need to also talk about how certain professions are bookmarked for certain lawyers, engineers, aerospace engineers, doctors. The easiest example I can use is a doctor and a nurse. The doctor is the man, the nurse is the woman.
We all know that when we find men who are nurses, we get shocked.
And that's the ultimate example of gender roles don't affect only women. They affect men too. Men. Because
men have also given up their passion, because it is termed as that is a space for women. Socially, women are constructed to do that. How can you say that you're going to be a hairstylist?
We need mindset change that is going to take a long time.
But then who is going to do that?
But you also need to understand what Omega said. To whose advantage is this? Yes. Who is milking?
Who is
the women?
Oh yes,
the men themselves.
Not even the men themselves, because some men. There are those leaders that are in power that take advantage the fact that a woman is uneducated, doesn't have knowledge, is not aware, and says this one now that is coming, and they are aware they're going to keep these women. They're going to awaken these women, and I will lose my vote, or I will stop exploiting them. Businessmen. So it has all that, and you find you're left to women fighting each other for a man, and that's
imagine.
I told somebody, if you find me fighting for a man, please beat me. So that there is land to fight over, there is property to fight over.
I am telling you.
But then we have this discourse and go to the issue of property rights. Because I have a problem when I see women fight each other because of a man. People have to fight over property.
They say men are scarce.
But women leaders, and I bounce it back to one of the challenges that women leaders have faced is that sexualization we've talked about.
Yes.
But how do we get women and say, yes, we have the numbers, and be each other's keepers and say, hey, that's beyond you. Come, let's work here. How do we have support systems where, you know, we have those women that want to draw you into conversations that are not growth conversations, and have support systems of growth conversations to say, you know, there is an acre of land, go and buy it. Because women leaders don't have property. They're still married and their husbands have to sign for them.
And the issue of women dragging one another down, I think it's all over the place. I don't know whether it's in the DNAs of women or
in the culture setting.
It's in the culture
and also
setting,
lack of
they be like you are
shaming
shaming us.
We are put in a state where we need to compete with one another. Maybe I've seen Omega and I'm like, she can't be better than me.
One
like,
of the things that I have seen with
know?
leadership is if they want a woman to go down, they're going to send one of your own to bring you down.
Exactly.
That's what manipulation we were talking about. Because
yes.
Omega, you would really know as a woman what hurts when somebody says this and this, yeah. But for me, what I want us to look at is then we have seen that this is the way they manipulate us.
Oh, yes.
They bring fellow women to tear us down. They sexualize our bodies. They send men for you to sleep with you and then lie to you. They take your money. I've seen one where the woman was going to stand and the guy said, what you get for me alone. Towards the election time, you get for me alone. Then I will pay back. And guess what? The guy disappeared. The money she was going to use for elections, she did not have it. So we've seen that they go even to your family members.
Yes.
Because they just see you as a threat. They are intimidated and think, well, that person is better than me. How do we build a support system as women to look out for each other?
For me, I
think
that
we take up leadership spaces.
I think that thing goes back to the leaders, the female leaders who are already in these spaces. They have created classes. They feel like if I have made it, they do not go back to pull a hand of another fellow woman. Maybe
feel like they don't know how to, and that's the discussion we are supposed to have right now. How
mentorship? Yes, mentorship. Okay. If you go back and check with these female leaders that we have, and you ask them, you are a female leader, yes, you're into this space. Show us the lineage behind you of the fellow female, whether it be it in school, that you're nurturing. How many people have you mentored to walk through your path?
Exactly.
To follow you as their role models. How many people have you come up and signed up and you're like, look, this is the way we are going.
Oh, yes.
If we are 10, let all of us hold 10 behind us. Have each other's. Let me have 10 I am mentoring. Omega mentors 10. You mentor 10. She mentors 10. How many are those? Those are already 40 plus us. We send them out as the change agents.
Yeah.
You get? In my school where I studied, I went back and did the girls' club. That club, we are through my organization that works with adolescent girls and teenage mothers. We make sure that we are creating a vacuum for these girls. We nurture them from senior one to be proactive, to be assertive, to be great leaders, to be debaters. In that by the time they grow up, they feel like, yes, we are able to also face this world of leadership. But these female leaders that we have these days, for them when they come, hope who is coming up is a threat, wants to take up my position. Then they will start to...
One man for himself, God for us all.
They will start putting blockages for you.
More mentorship.
More mentorship.
Yeah. Maybe just to add on that point of mentorship, the mentorship is not... It is not the normal mentorship.
No.
The mentorship that is for women in democracy is to understand what is at stake. If you are a leader in a position of power, you have to mentor the leader that is next to you, first of all, to understand. I could use parliament, to understand what is your place in parliament. what is the ripple effect of the things that you do. And still
Mm.
using that example of parliament, there are women leaders who say that they are MPs, but they've never set foot on the floor of parliament.
Parliament.
Because of different factors. Someone doesn't have the confidence, someone doesn't have
they even don't know what to do.
Thank you. So the mentorship that should happen in women in democracy, or with women in democracy, is the sort of mentorship to help you understand what does it mean to be a leader? What is the consequence of your actions? What is the positive? For instance, I can still give the example of Kadaga when she was in power. I like to use her a lot because there are a lot of gender responsive bills and laws that went into the prohibition of female genital mutilation. So you see how many women at that point voted for that bill. First of all, to understand that parliament is a space for lawmaking. So when you're mentoring people as the Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Anita Mung, do you mentor them to understand what are they doing first of all? Who are you? Because the mentorship ordinarily starts with the question of who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you? You're the,
and what are you standing for?
You're
as
the Rural Women
yes.
District MP. Do you understand who you are? Do you understand who you represent? Do you understand what this place is? Do you know what we are doing here? Do you know what this session is? So that is the mentorship we should be speaking about in these places of leadership. Because if a person comes into that full conscientization of who they are, even the way they will walk will change. I am the female MP for this region. I represent women. I represent children. When you're passing a bill, nothing can pass without my vote. You saw when there was the passing of, what was that famous bill? Age limit.
Age limit.
Do you remember how full the house was? And people were joking and said, we didn't know we had all these MPs. But it is because people don't understand their role and who they are. When they are passing bills or laws in relation to sugar, people are not around. But think about the economic cost. Do you know what sugar is?
To the woman.
You use it every single day. When they are passing bills about sexual offences, people are not in parliament.
Yet it can affect their children.
They have not understood
the
what
power
they are
that
doing,
within themselves.
what they are doing there, what that place is. Each and every position of power, even you or you, in your capacity of power, you have to understand who you are. Even as you steer this conversation right now, you have to think there could be 700 people that are watching this. The outcome better be
good.
You see, because someone could watch this and fall or stumble and say, just one small sentence. So the mentorship has to be understanding what leadership is, understanding what you're doing here, understanding the consequence of your actions, how to carry yourself, how to behave, all those questions. So I just wanted to add that on mentorship and what
But I think that is the only way to go, because even if we do what, when we do not have that gist of mindset change, the mentorship of understanding that, yes, you're into this space, but how are you going to use the power you have to advocate for the rest that you're representing? These people we take on spaces, one for photos, for salary, and for prestige. The moment we get that, I'll take it back to the parliament, as she references it all the time, that when you're eyeing for that seat, you're not even planning whatever you tell these people that you vote for me, I'm going to do this, and it is not the primary motivation. The primary motivation is the salary that an MP earns, because you want to change your status quo as a person. So the moment you get that, you forget. After all, by the end of the day, my salary is going to come. You forget what you stand for.
I will add, I'll let you know that politics is interest, unfortunately. That is something I do not want to hide from the public. And I usually let people know that for your good leaders, you will recognize them when you see them and when they do something for you. But unfortunately, politics is interest.
Even that statement itself is subjective.
It
is subjective because
we have seen women that have led to the formation of the Ministry of Gender, EOC.
So many
leadership is about service, and if you get there and your intentions are right, you get through. it's not going to be an easy road, but you build, because
That is
this
why
women
you
did not
say-
just wake up
when you stand strong on the foundations of leadership, the majority are going to go against you by the end of the day.
But that is why you see, when you're to weigh, majority of the people we have there are politicians and not leaders.
They're not leaders.
The leaders we have there are very few. And yes, they're doing amazing work. We appreciate them. But now this goes back to the young people who want to be leaders. Because we have very many people who are ambitious. We have very many people of ourselves who want to make a difference, who want to be the torchbearers of change in their communities. That means it has to start with them.
Someone normally asks me
that we are out of time, and I want you guys to give your parting shots. I keep saying that we are out of time.
We're out of time.
Yes.
I personally, whether you call it politics or whether you call it leadership, it depends on you. If your interest is serving the people, if your interest is really leadership, then go there and do what you are supposed to do, and not follow the example of the people we call politicians with interest.
Thank you,
Be
Charity.
a leader with interest.
Thank you, Charity. You go to Omega.
My parting shots, mentorship. Mentorship is very important in women's democracy and also women in democracy itself.
Yes.
The youth agenda. I think that if you're a woman in politics or in leadership, you should push the youth agenda. Our country is predominantly youth, and a huge chunk of our country is women. So when you push for the youth agenda, you're pushing for young women everywhere. I think, it is. We should hold ourselves as accountability partners.
Yes, yeah,
true.
Huge accountability partners, those that are in parliament, those that are in the judiciary. Look out for things, laws, and hold duty bearers accountable. I saw an example of challenging the classified budget. You see, the government comes out and says we have 10 trillion shillings that is classified. And just one MP will come out and say, but our budget is this. And if that classified budget is such a huge chunk of our budget, we should know what it is going into. So you see those small questions, but that is all rooted in accountability, in being responsible and saying that someone cannot just say this is a classified budget and we follow them like sheep. If the money is being taken, we should know
where it is
what is it being taken for? How does it trickle down to the child, to the woman? Is it for a national benefit? Is it for individual gain? So I believe there has to be mentorship, there have to be accountability, pathways, and youth participation. Yes.
Thank you so much, Omega. Hope your parting shots.
Okay, my parting shot. There is my mentor who normally asks me that, Hope, what do you want people to remember you for? Which legacy do you want to leave behind? You're into the space of leadership. There are so many people who are looking up to you, but what exactly do you want them to remember you for? And what kind of a trail do you want to leave behind? So to my fellow female leaders there, when you get into these positions, first of all, think, what do I want to be remembered for? What do I want to be attached to my name? That every time they talk about Hope, they know that Hope stood out for the teenage mothers. And adolescent girls, to ensure that these teenage mothers get spaces to go back to school. A stumble is not the end of the road. And that's what I stand for. Let us be inclusive in each and every space that we are in. Let us be inclusive. We cannot go anywhere if we are not inclusive in whatever we are thinking, whatever we are doing, and whatever we are planning. We be inclusive among youth, among children, among all spaces. Inclusivity is the only way to go.
Thank you so much, Hope. It's always a rejuvenating conversation to have you and, think differently and see it from a different perspective and see where do we have. I know we were supposed to evaluate ourselves, but time is not with us at the moment. We'll continue this discussion next week. To the woman out there, please note that the status of the daughter is as equivalent to their status of the mother. So if you see a woman standing up for herself, don't be the woman that says she should not speak up, because when a woman speaks, it means she's speaking for fellow women. Yes. Let us also be able to be each other's shoulder and support system, and be able to hold each other's accountable in terms of the women's agenda, and fight for each other as women, so that we can be able to achieve leadership position and power, as we always say. But also to remind you that, why are you comfortable? What is making you comfortable? Why are you not ambitious? Do you want your child to not be ambitious? So those are questions that you need to ask yourself and answer by yourself. Until next time, I'm Turyatunga Rebecca Juna. See you next time.